Yeah, welcome everybody. I guess you've all seen the video in the introduction this morning. We are doing two challenges. But before we go into the technical details of that, we just really want to have a conversation. And we have some people we invited to have this conversation with us, and I would like to introduce them to you. Yvette, are we starting with you again? Yvette Encius, our program manager of the Smart City team and digital innovation. Round of applause, why not? Yeah. Next up, Gisjo Koers, policy advisor at the province of Zuid-Holland. And then Marijn Fraaien, chief information officer of the municipality of The Hague. There's two other colleagues here in the room. First one up, Sven. He's challenge lead of challenge 1. We'll get into that a little bit later. Sven de Laaf, project leader of Living Lab Scheveningen. And we have Niels Hole, who is also coming to the hackathon to help everything smoothen out, because we are really put up with a lot of work to get this to a success. So thanks for being here, Niels. Also, small reminder already, I will, after this session, be gone very quickly, because my sister is graduating. For all questions, please refer to mainly those two, and of course you can, if you have questions more on the broader spectrum, find people here. All right. Let's go, yeah. So first up, Marijn, for you. So you're the Chief Information Officer. What does a Chief Information Officer do? What are your problems, actually? Yeah?
Basically twofold. On the one side, my challenge is how to bring digitalization to the municipality of The Hague. So basically how to use it to make things within the municipality easier, smoother and faster. At the same time, to look at, okay, what are the impacts on digitalization on the city itself? And how do we deal with that as a municipality, and how can we make sure that things that are going to happen over there are going to be in a proper, responsible way. And of course that relates to the data topic, because like mentioned, we have tons of data and we're looking, okay, how can we use that as fast and easy as possible.
All right, and do you have a concrete example of one of the challenges you face?
I think one way that we try to look to make a better use of data is, for example, a cooperation with the Central Bureau of Statistics. It's the main body in the Netherlands that have a lot of data from different kind of government agencies. And we have formed with them what we call Urban Data Center, in which we combine our own data as municipality with their data and try to basically investigate different kind of social topics that we try to make policies on.
All right, thanks. Yvette, we're going to talk a little bit about Living Lab Scheveningen. It's the subject of our challenge. Could you maybe tell us why Living Lab Scheveningen was started and what challenges it tries to solve?
Yes, we face many challenges in the city on digitalization and innovation. And we want to try out what it means for us as a government and also what it means for the city. But we don't want to try it out in the entire city yet, because we find it too risky. So that's why we decided to build a living lab in part of the city, which is called Scheveningen, close to the beach. And it is more or less a city within a city. It's an environment where people live, where people work, lots of visitors, tourists. There are parties, there's security issues. So it's really real life environment where we do not have control of everything. And that's a perfect environment for us to see what technology does with our city and how we can find new ways of smart city solutions and see how it can work for the people who live in the city.
Right. And Gisjo, you're from the province of Zuid-Holland, which of course Scheveningen is in Zuid-Holland. But what's your role in this project?
As a start, province is bigger than only Den Haag. We've got Rotterdam in this province as well, and Delft, and Scheveningen, and Den Haag, So we got a lot of cool cities, and we're doing a lot of nice stuff. And what we want to do as a province is we want to combine all those living labs in the area and let them learn from each other. And the things the technical solutions we make up, maybe we can scale it up to the rest of the region and work together with the other municipalities as well. We got a lot of small municipalities in this area. They're not as big as Den Haag with an innovation team like you guys, and we can help them out as well. And only thing we can do to help them out is by learning ourselves what it means in a living lab like this.
So the scale-up partner, if I can conclude that in a sort of one
scale-up partner
word.
and make this region the innovative region that it is, and tell and sell the region as a region. Because now it's a couple of municipalities competing to each other, and if you combine that one and you add it up, then we're one of the coolest regions in Europe.
Air pollution doesn't stop at the city borders. I think I heard you say earlier today.
And mobility doesn't stop at the city borders, and all the problems that don't stop at the city borders. But we have to learn from each other as well. And the best thing to learn is by doing.
And Yvette, can you tell me a little bit about where the Living Lab is currently standing? What's the status?
Well, the status is that actually the infrastructure is built at this very moment. We hope to start within 2-3 months from now. Next month we will place the first real smart city hubs, which are lighting systems, and which can do a lot more, like we can include cameras or radar systems or sensors in it. And then we can test. We have our tests with our colleagues from the city of The Hague, but we also would like to invite companies to test with us and to see how it works, what kind of technical requirements we need, what does it do with the people living there.
And one of the requirements that I think is a principle throughout the municipality is that all collected data is open unless. How do you want to facilitate that in the design of the Living Lab?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that is a discussion we have to have right now. We want to have the open unless, of course, we have our privacy issues. We want to take care of the security and privacy in a very good manner. Yeah, we are actually looking and finding ways to deal with these issues. So that's also why it's part of the challenge to help us, because we have few things that we know for sure, but many things are unclear. So it's still in developing.
All right, and Marijn, for you, what are the other boundary conditions relating to the data infrastructure that we need to think about?
I think they're not really boundary issues, but I think the main challenge that we face is that in this area we try to stimulate innovation. And I think the main hope that we have in this project is that by opening up the data, but correlating that between different parties with each other, we do stimulate innovation even faster than if every party hoards its data for itself. So I think we're really looking for a kind of ecosystem in which different data sources are connected together from different parties and basically stimulates more innovation in an increasing faster pace. Instead of everybody hoarding it themselves deep down because they think, okay, it's my data and my knowledge.
Right, and of course, talking about data is quite an abstract kind of thing. And maybe Gisje, you can help us. What kinds of use cases does the province see that can be built on this?
You mentioned one before, air pollution. That doesn't stop at the municipality borders. I don't know if you know the Scheveningen area. There's a big nature area next to that as well. We as province are responsible for that one. There are birds there, there are bats there, there are bees there. So we like to give them a voice as well in this whole ecosystem. And think like noise pollution, litter on the beach and on the boulevard. Yeah, all problems that people are facing in that area, which data and technology and a smart city infrastructure can help out with. So it's a broad variety, and we're starting with about 10 to 15 at the start, but there are more issues in the area that we want to solve.
Maybe some people in the audience know more issues that can be tackled with...
And if we fix this two issues, then they can enter them there as well.
What for anyone who wishes to answer, what would you like to get out of this hackathon? What would be the ideal win for us? Maybe Marijn has a clear answer.
I think that's a very tough question. I think a combination of the two challenges that we're having. So on one side, the answer on how do we correlate the data and how do we combine the different sources from the different parties. And at the same time, which is our first challenge, how do you develop a governance layer in which it's easy to judge from different kind of perspectives if you allow a use case or not. And I think the combination of the two is what we're looking for.
All right, closing it up, anything else we want to mention, or shall we go on?
The area which we're starting is really small right now, but if you're going to scale up to the rest of the city or the rest of the region, so it's got to be something that we'll be able to scale up or that we can learn from to scale up.
All right, thank you very much. I guess we're going to switch to some slides now to really get a little bit more into the details. I see everybody still focused. Yes. Yeah. This is basically what we're talking about. This is a smart city hub, which is a fancy word. Basically, it means it's a place where we can plug in sensors that will gather data that are used to solve specific societal challenges or use cases. Here in the corner, you see some different shapes that this smart city hub can take. So there's ways to integrate it with screens or with microphones. There's all kinds of different possibilities there. Right now, they are building this in our public area, in our public space. So these things, as Yvette mentioned in March, will be a reality. And they are, of course, connected with optic fiber and also some energy distribution technology. In a nutshell, if you want to know more about that, we can provide you with specs, how to interact with this. But this is basically our challenge. So how do we get all these people, all these different stakeholders, representing researchers, policy people, maybe nature workers, how do we onboard them collectively, maybe organized through use cases on our digital infrastructure? Right now, we're doing this quite manually. There's somewhere a public official that fills in a form. I guess that's not really the 21st century way we're looking for, and it's definitely not scalable. So, in a nutshell, that is the challenge one. Getting those people in. Challenge two is what you're here for now, is, okay, but if we're in, what happens after? Is this actually a system that engages people, that invites people to make use of it, to allow people to extract value from it? It's basically a big incentive game, if you will. So Sven there, challenge one, me here, challenge two. But it's not so separate as it might seem. Why? Because basically, this is what we have currently sketched as being all the sets of functionalities that we think a governance protocol for this open access public digital ecosystem should have. Maybe this is not complete. Maybe we are missing stuff, or maybe something is in that in the end doesn't seem to work. This is what we have until now. And if you look at the colors, you will see that the orange ones are challenge one. How do we get people in this? How do we onboard people in the system in a scalable and inclusive way? All the green is challenge two. All the things that happen after you're in. So what are we looking at? Firstly, civic support. The things we're going to install, do people actually want that? Can we measure civic support? We'll see later, for each of these functionalities, will have a building block that provides some foundation to work from. However, please bring your own. If you don't agree with our choice, please let us know. If you think something misses from this, you have a building block that would fit. I already had some questions after last session. Please let us know. This is open for discussion. So Civic Support, a sensor registry. Where do we register what sensors are where and what kind of data they do? Traditionally centrally managed. Odyssey Spirit, decentrally managed. New business models popping up. Living Lab Information Navigator, very fancy word, just means, okay, but all this information that we have in this Living Lab, how do we make it easily accessible? Can we create a sort of Google for the Living Lab to easily search and find the things you want? Public data storage, all the stuff we have, we're currently not sharing for all kinds of reasons. Private data storage, people in the city who have valuable data, who might want to share it but don't have a platform. How? Can we combine them into partnerships? Can we facilitate citizens to become their own self-sovereign entity and thereby also data owner and controller? Would help privacy, but also allows you to earn from your own data. Can we combine all of those data sources into a data exchange where they are recombinated, and can we derive new kinds of insights from that, preferably in an automatic way? Not completely, the law doesn't allow for that. This is the whole system. Green is challenge 2, what you're here for. How do we drive the adoption? Taking care of privacy, taking care of civic support, complex information, make it accessible, and incentivize sharing and using data. And of course, policy. In a nutshell. Oh, I'm going quite good. These are the building blocks, so I'll go through them one by one. If you have any questions, of course, in the end there will be a moment to ask them. I also have documentation on this and links to the specific websites, if relevant. First one is Den Haag Begroot, the Hague Budgets. It's basically a participatory budget tool that allows citizens to submit an idea for their neighborhood, and also that same community of citizens to vote on those ideas, thereby having a community-supported budgeting, in this case 30,000 euros provided by the municipality, to solve problems in the neighborhood. Very interesting idea that came up was the Couvéhuis in Statenkwartier Begroot, the last version of this. And this was a neighborhood building, community building, that was on the agenda to be stopped. And through this platform, the community managed to fund that specific building, making sure that it would stay, because it had so much value for people that they wanted it to stay, no matter what the policy of the municipality was. So it shows how strong this can be. Secondly, a building block right here from the Hague University of Applied Sciences. Professor Jos van Leeuwen has developed a voice assistance that can be integrated with our smart city hubs, so that now you can really start talking to landowners. This means that people who don't have digital skills would be able to interact with our digital ecosystem as well. The building block from Jos basically provides a flow model of how to design your own voice assistants. All right. This is Tannekil, our Chief Data Officer. She is in charge of managing the data ecosystem of the municipality and outside of it. And she will be the face of a number of building blocks that we have already developed internally. One of them being an open data portal. So here I just put some some data of notifications in the public space, specifically Scheveningen. We have a lot of this geospatial information readily available. You can see it right now in on your smartphone. There's also a few other building blocks that we're thinking about sharing here. Won't go into much detail right now. But it's basically our internal tools we have. So we're reusing the things that are already working for us. Who of you knows Ocean Protocol here? Ah, it's funny. In the last session, it was more, even though this is the challenge that they become even more relevant. Basically, the incentive game of data accessibility, data quality is something that they have been working on. And they developed a protocol that would be able to help these siloed data sources to merge together. We have many questions around this, how that would work. But Ocean has specifically partnered with us to find that out. Also to see if there's a connection possible to any of the other building blocks. So if you're interested in the data exchange functionality of our system, is an interesting building block. They will also speak tomorrow in the event, and they'll be there at the hackathon. Andrew, you maybe saw today on stage. We have a very close collaboration with the self-sovereign identity track. So, for example, I was called by Rieks Joosten from TNO, who's going to be a Jedi there, asking me which kinds of verifiable credentials I would need for my challenge, which is great, because that means that I don't have to do that work. But it also means that we can really shape a profile of a citizen, for example, the way we like. If you have any requests on, hey, I have an idea and I want to use a verifiable credential or self-sovereign identity in my solution, and I would really like it if this was available, let us know, because we can still make that happen. Why are we doing this? For those of you who don't know self-sovereign identities, it could be a foundational building block to ensure privacy by design. I can do a whole lecture on it now, which I actually did in this room. I recognize you from there, so you know what it's about. Last one, we have a 3D model of our city. Right now, it is available. It's open, but that is only in viewer mode. So you can see buildings. The next step on the roadmap, which we're trying to speed up by asking them to model our living lab, is to create a programmable layer on that. So that you can actually interact with the buildings, maybe see what types of sensors are there in the living lab, where the data is stored, etc., etc. I noticed that I'm already thinking too much in solutions, maybe. But I think there's many, many ways that you can use this. Also, maybe in terms of participation. If you have any questions regarding this, you have any expertise, please ask us soon what you need, because we are still shaping the tools as they will be available in the hackathon. So there is some way to provide you with what you exactly need. And of course, this is just some suggestions. It's what we have, it's what we know, but we're especially looking for the things we don't know. So if you have any ideas, you have your own building block, please bring it. Or convince us why the ones we have are not good enough. We're open to that. Nothing is set in stone. Then, of course, the important question is who will win? Well, firstly, it needs to be something that we didn't think of ourselves. If you manage to do that, that's the blowing our minds part, you have a better chance. However, if you look at that set of functionalities that we've been designing, We have building blocks for each of them, but the big question is, how do they interact? How do we get all those building blocks together in a sort of working protocol? So especially on the interaction of those functionalities is where we would like to see prototypes popping up. We don't expect that any team can do all functionalities described in once at the hackathon in a few days. We would surely like to see you try, though. But that's where number 3 comes in, is where collaboration is key. If you can show that your prototype works with a solution from another team inside the challenge, or maybe another team inside the other challenge we have, that gives you a strong case of why yours works. Even more extreme, if you can show that another use case of one of the other challenges in Odyssey 2020 has merits for using your prototype so we can couple that solution to our digital ecosystem, that's when the magic starts to happen. There's a few examples: the energy challenges, the emergency response challenge. Those are all problems that in the end our digital ecosystem should facilitate. So if you can show how that plugs in, marvelous. Hi kumbaya kind of thing. So happy you're here. Because apparently we cannot solve it ourselves. We need you. But it also means that there needs to be something for you in this. It's not just a one-way street. So what is it? Well, become part of this ecosystem. It's an existing ecosystem. We are working on this, no matter if Odyssey stops, this challenge will go on. So you'll be part of this train. Specifically, this is interesting. We are still looking at ways, there's no decision made yet, but we're looking at ways how we can incubate the prototypes after the hackathon, so we can actually build them into working tools, start pilots. Next to that, we're the first city that's going to be 5G ready. So if being ahead is something you value, this is the place. There's no other city yet. And lastly, it's more the big vision, the point on the horizon, is that whatever we're creating here should not just be for The Hague. And it should not even just be for South Holland. We are pioneering the next blueprint for the co-creation of urban environments, where in the digital sphere, human rights are protected. And this should be a universal thing. So also in rural India or Africa, elements of what we're building here should be applicable. Of course, it's not going to be phase 1, but if you can show us how that would work, great. We're the international city of peace and justice. Last slide, more information there. I'll quickly open up the stage for questions from you, because that's what it all, that's what it's about. So, are there any questions? Or you just want coffee?
Work? Yeah, nice. There's one thing you said that triggered me, as in, how far can I...
Only one?
Well, several, but one popped up. How far can I dream? You said within the limits of the law, but also our Secretary of State said if the law needs to be amended because of digital innovation, please let me know. Is this something we can explore?
You want to answer this question? I have ideas, but...
I think you can, if you can also reason why it's necessary to change the law.
Thanks.
More questions?
This is your moment to get information.
I have one question. I think it's a great project and challenges. I'm interested in if any of you members have thought about digital citizenship, because you're talking about onboarding people, and is that related in any way to your project right now?
So yeah, the self-sovereign identity element. This is what that's about. We took self-sovereign identity because it's the extreme form of ownership and control. More user-centric models, of course, can try to come up with solutions too. It's not that we say, okay, only blockchain-based self-sovereign identity is the solution. Other digital citizenship proposals, please come in. I see we have Wouter Wedding here in our midst, who knows more about the ecosystem of digital identity in the Netherlands. So Wouter, yeah, maybe you have an idea about how you see digital citizenship as a role in this, or I know it's a little bit cold on the roof, this, but.
Hi. I work for the Ministry of the Interior, and when it comes to digital citizenship, well, I think there are a lot of aspects where we can ask what part of our, let's say, our digital shadow is something we should have fully control over, and what aspects should be governed by, let's say, boundaries set by the state, or what aspects should be set by complete privacy regulating standards. I think that's something we do not really have, let's say, set in stone laws on, but we're trying to find out. What I was very interested in is how you define this concept of data commons, because I think you mentioned it twice in your presentation. It's something I'm searching for. So if there's not a clear answer, I think, within the Dutch policy or law yet, but we need these kind of, let's say, expeditions to find out what we think about that.
We have a question over here, Ivo.
Does it answer your question, or are you looking for a more concrete case of how digital citizenship could be used? So if you look at participation, every vote you give is also a data point. Right now we have situations where we have a physical meeting, someone comes in, fills out a form with their opinion, and maybe this form will disappear within the municipality walls, and policy will be made on that for the next 3 years. Even though maybe the person who gave that vote, his or her opinion might have changed. So can we create a system of participation where on the one hand there's an incentive to participate, but on the other hand where you in the end have more control over your voice, your vote. I think with a digital citizenship you can build a new kind of system from that. And what exactly? Please show us.
Okay, I have a question over here, Ivo.
Well, not so much as a question as a point to maybe think about in the development of, I would say, a new phase of the city. Everybody's seen the papers yesterday about weaker parts of cities becoming increasingly vulnerable. That's a big problem for our society. People have got nothing more to lose and no hope and no sight on anything better, then it gets worse and worse. We've got international examples in that space. I like to put a focus on something that I learned in Africa, for instance, where people skip 60 years of development and rely on their mobile phone. What I would like to see is the consciousness of not making language for, I would say, social help structures within the government, within the local government. Like we have, I don't even know what the word in, we hebben speciale bijstand en al dat soort andere voorzieningen. We've got all sorts of things. There's a lot of threshold and a lot of not knowledge and a lot of not using these facilities. Many cities even have money left over in these facilities. I would like to see that modernized in just giving a very, very simple wallet on something that everybody has, which is a smartphone. that works on even rebranded old types, and that you can just airdrop the tokens that people give rights to certain facilities in the city. Takes away the threshold of having to face, for some people, the humiliation of using it. It makes it accessible. People see it in their phone. They don't have to go to a local council. They don't have to do anything. And basically, all the services that are available to sustain these groups, like individual help for children in basic schools, for extra help for getting a bicycle, for participating in maybe a school outing, whatever you can think of, you can make it accessible right there and then in their hand. That's a very easy system to build. It's already there. I mean, it's available technology. I would like to see the social impact of something like that, to really innovate in this realm and get away with all the rules and all the other stuff.
Sounds like you should join and come with a solution for that.
Well, I've been preaching this for quite some time on several fronts, and I like to bring it here forward because I've been born in The Hague, so it gives me sort of a special attachment to the city. I would love, just to sustain a project like that, because it's so easy for me to create this for you guys.
Maybe you should talk afterwards to Yvette on this part, because she's responsible for the smart city in the whole, this is only one project of her, and one of her projects is tipping your point. So,
because I've been born here.
Yeah, well, walk down afterwards and have a conversation. Thank you.
I have one more question. I think that a lot of solutions come from digital twins, having the possibility to find out things on digital platforms. I've seen that you have built a 3D model of the city. And I'm asking, where does this come from? And is there any connection to the gaming industry from your point of view in order to find solutions?
Have an answer?
It's a model that we're working on for a longer time, actually together with the municipality of Rotterdam. And basically the main aim is to create what we call a digital twin. I'm not sure if we got input from the gaming industry, so maybe not. But we do have a team within the municipality of The Hague and Rotterdam that basically works on this kind of model. And actually we just got funding as well to scale it up to a bigger size from the national government. Quite a lot of money.
I think it makes use of the Tigran engine, and I believe that is also used for gaming. Not 100% sure. What I do know that in Rotterdam they're a little bit further than we are with this. Still, I think after this project, not anymore. Where they actually use this to facilitate participation processes, where they allow people to basically design their own street, for example. So it has a Sims kind of, or a SimCity kind of feeling to it.
I have a question.
Does
over
that
here.
answer your question?
You then have a question over here.
Hi, Nima from Ocean. Feel free to come to us to talk about this. So I'm curious if you guys have also considered fundraising through, financializing data for the hardware itself. So how does the city plan to pay for, let's say, thousands of these poles, the smart city hubs? What if you could create municipal bonds or munis for that have claims to future data revenues of these? That could be a hack project for people. So that sounds very interesting, and no one has done it. So very cool stuff.
To you guys for this.
Actually, it's one of the sites that we're looking up for when we're going to scale. So what we didn't figure out yet, how are we going to fund it? Do we do that with traditional funding? Or do we try to add something extra? Or are we going to give parts out, for example, in concession for a certain amount of money? That's still something that we're looking into. So we haven't worked anything out like that yet.
Yvette, do you want to add something? No? Okay. Any other questions? Who has the million-dollar
one.
question?
Yeah, there it is,
we
in the
have
middle.
Lucky you.
This is a practical question for the hackathon. So, but first of all, congratulations for this technological area in Groningen. I hope the pronunciation is good. That's impressive. And the practical question is, let's suppose that a team tackles several problems you have talked about and comes up with a platform, or let's say just a framework in which smart hubs can can exchange data with citizen. And let's say that this platform answers a couple of key points you have talked about. The question is how this team is supposed to present their solution. How this team should it focus on one single use case, or should it address, I don't know, a more broader project? Let's say I have something that solves the entire problem, or should I just focus on one single aspect and tackle it, basically?
I think I understand your question. So basically you're saying, okay, we do the hackathon, we have a prototype at the end. Maybe the prototype in itself really works well, but how are we going to show that? That's your question, right? So I think the answer is already a little bit in what you suggested. So there is this 144 use cases that we have defined that can be built on top of this digital infrastructure. You can take one of those use cases, make it a fictional idea, but you can take it and show that that use case would work with your prototype. If you can show that in a concrete way, it gives an easy way out for us to also put the metrics of our evaluation onto your project. If you could make it so concrete that there's another team of another challenge that has a prototype and you are able to use that prototype to prove your prototype, your proof of concept, that would be a very strong way of showing. It also really depends on the functionality you have. Like if you use the 3D model of the city, show the 3D model. So find your way, and of course throughout the hackathon we'll be there to see what would fit and to advise you on how to present. Yeah, that I can say for sure.